I want to repeat the opening prayer. It's quite incredible what we said today. It said, God of everlasting mercy, from the recurrence of this Paschal feast, kindle the faith of the people, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it says, increase the grace you have bestowed that all may grasp, here it is, and rightly understand in what font they have been washed. We have two of them here. Can you stand for a second? Just baptized last Easter Vigil. Thank you. So that we might grasp and rightly understand in what font they have been washed, by whose Spirit they have been reborn, and by whose blood they have been redeemed, that they may rightly understand that. Thank you, sir. How many have been to the La Brea Tar Pits? Anyone in the last 2 years? Okay, I don't know how recent the exhibit is. It's an outside, I guess you'd call it exhibit. And here's how I describe it. Here we are at ground level, and then suddenly there's a little hill that you go down. I'm going to say about 15 feet, and it levels out. Then it goes back up the 15 feet to the ground level. And then over you is a little bit of an arch on both sides with an enormous, I'll say, 50-pound boulder, a ton boulder, 50 ton, huge. So you actually walk. You don't look at the boulder, or you could look at it on the side and say, whoa, that thing is huge. But then you have the opportunity to walk underneath it and to stand under the boulder. Now, I tell you, you understand that boulder that you stand under much better. And I'm pretty sure that's why the word was created that way. To understand is to stand under. And to stand under the weight and the reality that is above you. To stand under the cross is different than to stand very far away and look at it from a distance. To stand under anything is to come perhaps to a better understanding. There's another way of looking at this. The mystics like to use this concept of mindful, being mindful. Psychologists also say, like if you do something and you're very mindful, that means, oh my God, I think someone just got hit out there. Now, I was paying attention here singing, and I'm totally fixed on that. I am mindful of going to help that person. Somebody says, Father Perry, could you, shh, Father Perry, no, excuse me, because I'm mindful, I've got to get out there and save that person. But we can also be mindful in a wrong way. I'm so mindful of other stuff that I don't even notice what's happening in front of me. So I have to mind empty myself, empty my mind empty me so that I can be mindful of not the non-essential stuff, but the thing that's really important. So, I'm going to confess to you, when I was a teenager, even before I had my driver's permit, I was driving. I had a friend who had a Corvair Spider, not Corvette, but a Corvair Spider in the 60s, and it was 4 on the floor. That's how I learned to drive with. And this friend used to take me up to Griffith Park, and I'd drive those curves and hills with that 4 on the floor and shifting and everything, learned how not to ride the clutch and I learned all the technique of driving. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't study. So I did pass the written test, barely, but I failed the driving test. Now, I knew how to drive perfectly fine, but you know what my biggest loss of points was? As the car was parked at the curb, and the person who was going to test me got on I was in the driver's seat, and he's over here, and he says to me, okay, now, pull out, drive down the block, and turn right. So I said, thinking to myself, cinch, what a cinch. So I looked very carefully into the rearview mirror. Nobody was coming, and I could see that clearly, and I pulled out, and he took off a whole bunch of points. What for? I didn't turn around and look. And I didn't put the blinker on either. I didn't signal, but worse, I didn't crank my head around and look. And the reason is a safe reason. Sometimes you look in the mirror, like the car I drive has blind spots all over the place. But to look around is to be safe. And I wasn't safe. So he took off points, and I had to take the test again. Now, I could have gotten fixated on that. I could have gotten mindful, oh, I'm a failure, I can't believe it, how do I tell my friends? Oh, look at this, oh my God, I failed. Will I fail the next time? And be totally preoccupied. But I was called to empty, to become mind empty of all that garbage. Say, Perry, hello, go back to that book and see what I have to do. So that I could be mindful, in a good sense, of what I had to do. Today, these scriptures are extraordinary. They're all through this whole season of Easter. We have all these appearance stories, and they're quite, on a rational level, they don't make a lot of sense, some of them. I mean, Jesus comes up and talks to Mary and the disciples. They knew him. They walked with him for 3 years. They knew him intimately. Friends deeply loved him. And even if they didn't recognize his body after the resurrection, which the scriptures don't bother to explain, they just present it to us, even if there was some kind of a transformation of body, why didn't they understand his voice? I've been a priest 40 years. I bump into people from my first 2 parishes, and I start talking to them, and they say, Father Perry, is that you? And I say, well, yes. They say, oh, I don't recognize you at all. I had hair before, and I don't recognize you at all, but I recognize your voice. So 40 years later, my voice is still pretty much the same, although my looks have changed, and they couldn't recognize me by my face. So why didn't they recognize Jesus? The scripture gives us no help. So on a rational level, it's difficult, and this story today is even worse. We're planted on Easter Sunday, okay? Now, these poor disciples, talk about mindful. They were mindful, not in a good way, full of all kinds of fear and anxiety and guilt. I mean, they had this Last Supper with Jesus, and at the end of the meal, of the Passover meal, he adds some stuff on at the end. He says, takes his bread, blesses it, breaks it, says, this is my body, eat it. Huh? Does the same with the cup, drink it. Huh? They didn't get it. But he was telling them something for the future that he wanted them to do as a way of remembering him. So they have this nice dinner, they leave. The next day, he gets accused and arrested. They condemn him to death. And Peter has just gotten all big and bold, saying, I'll never desert you. He says, by the time the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And he says, I don't even know the man. And they take him away, and he runs off filled with fear and filled with guilt. Fear because they started naming him. Surely you know him. I'm sure I saw you with him. No, it couldn't have been me, someone else. I don't even know the man. Curse, swear, curse, swear. And then he breaks into tears, loaded with guilt, runs off. Sunday, now, they get news in the morning that tomb that they put him in and rolled the big stone there, the stone has been rolled away and the tomb is empty. They found the wrappings, but no body. And then some women from their group come back and say, we have seen the Lord, he has been raised. So now these disciples, apostles, are in this upper room. They're afraid, but now they're confused. And here it is evening. They've got all the doors and windows securely locked so no one can get in, and Jesus is in their midst. Now, not this story, but another one says they thought he was a ghost, so he says to them, come here and touch me. Feel my hands, feel my side, so you know I'm not a ghost. They do it, and they're overjoyed but confused. And then he says, do you have anything to eat? Strange, but they say, sure. They give him some fish or bread or both, whatever. And he eats it. Why? Why? What would happen if he were a ghost? Where would it end up? Right on the floor. It doesn't end up there. So it's verified again through these scriptures. He's real. How did he get through locked doors and windows? That only a ghost could do, but he does. Scripture offers no help. So if we approach this on a rational level, good luck. But on this more intuitive level, we're asked to come to a belief in the testimony of those who tell this story that somehow Jesus Christ experienced him in their midst, risen. He was real. Okay. So I have to write some things down because my mind is getting more feeble every day. What's my name? I don't know. But here we go. This is the scene. So we're in there. There's locked doors. And the gospel says they were afraid. They were afraid. That's why the doors were locked, fear of the Jews. Then Jesus comes in. First thing he says, peace be with you. Now, thank God, because they needed some peace. They were afraid. They were guilty as could be. Peter probably just wanted to die rather than look Jesus in the eyes after he said he didn't even know the man. So he says, peace be with you. Then he showed them hands and side. Let them see the reality right away. Come on, take a look. It's me. It's really me. And then the disciples became overjoyed, even though they had been afraid. Maybe they didn't lose their fear, but now they were feeling joy too. And he says again, peace be with you, taking such good care of them. Then he goes, and blows his life into them. And then of all things he could have said is, you have the power to forgive sin. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven, whose sins you retain are retained. Forget about, is he making the sacrament of reconciliation? No, that took hundreds of years to develop. But he was passing on to them and to this early community the power of forgiveness. Now, if there's anything that locks us up and prevents us from fully living, is not being able to forgive. What a gift! And what, of all the gifts he could have given, he gives the gift of peace and forgiveness. But poor Thomas wasn't there. Thomas was a real dude. I like Thomas. I consider him my great patron saint. Any doubters in here? I'm a doubter. Show me, prove it to me, prove it. Don't tell me nonsense and ask me to believe it. If you tell me you just saw a vision of angels or devils, prove it. But Father, I did. Okay, fine, you did. You did. But I won't believe it. I want to see it. So there is Thomas. And they say, we've seen the Lord. Oh yeah, really? I'll tell you this. I don't care what you say you believe. Until I see his hands, the marks in the hands, put my finger, I want them in those wounds. I want to touch his side. I want to feel him. Then I'll believe it. And until then, forget it. I don't care. 10 of you say it. I don't care. Que vergüenza. And then Jesus appears. Peace be with you. Thomas. Come here, Thomas. Feel my hands. Go on. Put your fingers in the wounds. Touch my side. He says, stop your unbelieving and believe. Now, we stop the camera right here because this is the moment for Thomas to go all self-destructive. And like Peter who ran away in tears, Judas went and hung himself. Here he just doubted the risen Lord. He could have said, camera start, I'm so terrible. I'm such a lousy apostle and disciple. How could you ever pick me? It's me. I'm just a mess. I'm a mess. He doesn't even look at himself. He just utters faith and a profession of faith incredible. My Lord and my God. He experiences this. He is turned from a doubter into a believer, and the focus doesn't go on him. It goes on you, my Lord and my God. And he professes such faith. What a Sunday, second Sunday of Easter, for us to celebrate the meaning of this feast, to stand under so that we can understand what this is all about. As an additional gift, at all of our masses today, or several of them, we have people in white robes. Could you stand again? And they're in white robes because last Saturday evening they came in brown robes. And they went through the whole evening with us, a 3-hour service. And then they went into those waters in the brown robes, and I soaked them as much as I could, baptized them. They came out, they changed, and came back in white robes, you may be seeing, which they will wear till Pentecost, to say to us, these are the newly baptized. These are the ones who were received into our faith. However, we have a group of people who were baptized many years ago, but not into our Catholic faith, or they were baptized in our Catholic faith and never received the additional sacraments of initiation, confirmation, and Eucharist. We have several people who have been confirmed but not received communion, or received confirmation but not communion, well, either one of those. But we have Don Zuka here, who has had a journey of faith in other Christian religions and has come now to this faith and will make a profession of faith, saying that he believes what the Catholic Church teaches. And we have Nicole, who was baptized but does not have confirmation in Eucharist. So in just a moment, understanding and standing under all that we've said and all that the season means, Don will come up and profess his faith, and then Nicole will join him and the sponsors. And first of all, I'll just simply lay hands on them. and silently pray and ask you to do the same. And, actually, they'll profess their faith first and make their promises of baptism again. And then I'll lay hands on them. And then I'll anoint them with the chrism as I confirm them and give them the sign of peace. And then they will be fully received through baptism and confirmation. And then they will be the first two to come forward today to receive Eucharist for the first time in the church completely. So today they will complete all their sacraments of initiation. Now I think I can say these two and those two are standing under some truth and belief in completely new ways. In fact, I've already asked Don, so I'll say it to Nicole too. Not today, I want you to absorb it first, but I'm hoping in a couple Sundays from now that you'll both come up here. I'm hoping the same from you, lo mismo para usted, that you'll come up on some Sundays coming and share your experience as adults, what this means to stand under, to understand this stuff that we celebrate together. And I'll tell you why it's so important that you do that for us. Most of us were baptized and went through the process, received our sacraments as kids. And although it's beautiful with our kids, I think most of the time many of them don't really understand it, or they understand it as children. But as to whether it matures, difficult to say. In fact, the truth is, the statistics of the church say that we have our confirmation class usually here. Last night we had them. About 85% of them get confirmed and they say, sayonara, hasta la vista, maybe I'll see you again, maybe. And about 23% probably come back and fully practice their faith. So why? Well, I think the scriptures also give a hint as to why. All three scriptures talked about overwhelming joy, but they also talked about affliction, fear, loss, letting go. And so these things that we're often mindful of so much in life that make us afraid and stagnate us and paralyze us, sometimes we latch onto those things. Our minds are so full of them, we just don't move forward. And we have to go through what the mystics say, the via negativa. Let them go. Let them die. Not cling to them so that we can become mindful via positiva on the things that really count. The prayers often say that, Mass. Not think of the things that are just now, but the things that are eternal. Love is eternal. Forgiveness is eternal. Compassion is eternal. And those things, when we latch onto them, they open us up to life. And so today, these scriptures are inviting us, the whole community, and especially looking through the eyes of people who are standing under and understanding some realities in a very personal and powerful way, so that we can get from them to, perhaps, a further appreciation of our life and our faith.